Assalamualaikum brothers, we will start the mosque collection now, so if you want to, please donate generously. And there's also brothers with card machines if you want to donate by card. Jazakallah.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله تعالى، فإن الله تعالى مع المتقين. وبعد, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, إن الله يأمركم أن تؤدوا الأمانات إلى أهلها وإذا حكمتم بين الناس أن تحكموا بالعدل. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gives us two core elements that make up a foundational part of our deen. Number one, al-amana. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informs us that He has commanded us أن تؤدوا الأمانات إلى أهلها, to give that which we have been given in responsibility as a trust back to those whom are deserving of it. And also to be just when giving our opinion, when judging in matters between parties, between people, and so on and so forth. To be responsible and to be trustworthy and to be just, unbiased. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلَا يَجْرِمَنَّكُمْ شَنَآنُ قَوْمٍ عَلَىٰ أَنْ لَا تَعْدِلُوا اعْدِلُوا هُوَ أَقْرَبُ لِلتَّقْوَى. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us, do not allow the transgressions of a people to lead you into being unjust with them. Be just, because it's closer to piety and taqwa. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, أَوَّلُ مَا تَفْقِدُونَ مِنْ دِينِكُمْ الْأَمَانَةِ وَآخِرُهُ الصَّلَاةِ. He said, alayhi salatu salam, the first of what you will lose from your deen, أَوَّلُ مَا تَفْقِدُونَ, that which you will lose from your deen, is al-amana, trustworthiness. وَآخِرُهُ الصَّلَاةِ, and the last of it is your prayer. If we look to our communities today, can we say that we are trustworthy? If we look to ourselves as individuals, can we say that we are trustworthy? That we are responsible? That we uphold that which we have been entrusted with of responsibility? And when we look at al-amana, trustworthiness, the ability to uphold one's responsibilities, there are multiple areas to be addressed. Number one, the amana given to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's number one. That's the first and the foremost. And what is the amana given to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to His angels, I'm going to place on the earth a khalifa, a vicegerent, a deputy, one who will take responsibility for the application of that which I deem, i.e. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to be worthy of practice and so on and so forth. That's the first and the foremost amana, responsibility that we have individually and collectively. Are we fulfilling that amana? Did the Prophet ﷺ fulfill that amana? Of course he did. We are an example of the fulfillment of the amana of the Prophet ﷺ. Islam spread its wings into the east and the west, to the north and the south. globally after the Prophet ﷺ passed away. The Sahaba, did they carry out that amana? They did. The Tabi'een, they did. And so on and so forth. When we look at our situation today, as individuals and as collectively, are we fulfilling the amana that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us? The Prophet ﷺ, he said, Al-ulama warathatul anbiya, that the ulama are the inheritors of the prophets. They inherit the risala, the message, the understanding of the message, the duties of the message, and so on and so forth. And so, of course, they should be spearheading us. But that hadith gives us insight into our amana. That those who come from us, that take up the path of knowledge, they are those who inherit directly from the Prophet ﷺ. And our ummah, we are from which the ulama come. So it is our responsibility to have those who inherit from the Prophet ﷺ, those who are educated. And if we ask ourselves the question, are we fulfilling the amana given to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be His khulafa upon this earth, to be those who deputize, His vicegerents, those who take responsibility for the application of Islam, for the calling to the good and for preventing the wickedness and so on and so forth. If we ask ourselves, are we doing that? And we find that the answer to the question is no. We have to ask ourselves, why not? And in order to understand why not, we have to make a comparison between ourselves and the Sahaba. What did the Sahaba live for? The Sahaba lived for one thing, and one thing alone, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Sahaba did not live to fill their stomachs. The Sahaba did not live for the pleasures of the private part. The Sahaba did not live to have fat pockets. The Sahabas did not care for nice homes, comfort, convenience. The Sahaba lived for one thing and one thing alone, to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to carry out their duty on this earth. Why are we living? We're living to serve Allah. That's why we should live. But what are we actually doing today? What has become our purpose collectively? And the answer, the frank and honest and brutal truth is, we are living for comfort, we are living for convenience, we are living for self-interest. That's the reality. The average man wants to find a nice wife, and wants to acquire a nice home, and wants to drive a nice car, and wants to eat nice meals, and wants to wear fine clothes. He doesn't care for the responsibility of the ummah. That's the reality. The average woman wants to find a good husband, wants to raise good children. Likewise, wants to decorate the nice home that her husband acquires for her, and so on and so forth. We don't have a concern for the responsibility given to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala like the Sahaba did. That's why we're in the situation today. And when you look at every period of revival that took place during our ummah, the time period of our ummah on this earth, you find it was spearheaded by individuals who had the same purpose as the Sahaba, i.e. to fulfill their responsibility to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They cared not for this world, because they understood that this world is temporary. The home is going to disappear. Once death comes, what difference is it whether a person lived in a mansion or lived in a shack? There's no difference. Once a person goes to the bathroom, what difference does it make what he ate for dinner? That's the reality, and that's similar to the reality of this dunya. That's the first amana, and that's the most important amana. We have to ask ourselves, collectively and individually, are we fulfilling that amana? If not, the reality is we've become attached to this dunya. And so the next question should become, how do I detach myself from this dunya? The second area of responsibility for the man, his wife, his children. That's a responsibility and amana given to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not one that we can simply say, I don't want to work, I don't want to provide for my family, I don't want to raise my children. No. If you're man enough to have children, you should be man enough to raise them. If you're man enough to get married, then you should be man enough to go out, work and provide for your wife. Even if she earns money, that money is not your right. That money is not our right to spend on what we want. It's not our right to share the money of the wife to pay the bills and so on and so forth, unless it's a necessity. The whole 50-50 culture that's become popular today, that's not our culture. To us, that's not acceptable. The Muslim man should feel ashamed if he can't provide for his wife and his kids. The Muslim man should feel driven to go out and earn so that he can put food on the table of his wife and his kids. Likewise, the woman has responsibility. She should feel pride in bringing satisfaction, happiness to her husband and her children. She should feel ashamed if her husband is left wanting, and so on and so forth. These are not roles that have come from opinions. These are not responsibilities that we take from our back pockets. These are what have been mandated for us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself. And who are we to question Allah? If we are questioning Allah, if we have an issue with that which Allah has obliged, that which Allah has set out, then we have a bigger problem than that which we're making a problem about. That bigger problem is the problem of the heart, a sickness. And we live in a time of societal sickness. So again, we have to look at ourselves, question ourselves. Amana, the first thing that we will lose from our deen. And the last thing is what? As-salah. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله وحده وصلوات ربي وسلامه على أشرف الأنبياء ومن تبعه وبعد. Every person should look to themselves. If I say a word, do I keep it? If I speak, am I telling the truth? If someone asks me to carry something out and I agree, do I carry it out? Can I be relied upon? Am I trustworthy? If not, it needs to be rectified immediately. And if I am a person who prays, but I'm a person that's untrustworthy, I should be afraid that next I'm going to lose my salah. That's what I should be scared of. That if I am not able to be a person of trustworthiness, and I'm not able to be a person of responsibility, then perhaps tomorrow I will lose my salah just as today I've lost my amana. That's the way that we should be thinking. And if I lose my salah tomorrow, the day after, perhaps it's my deen. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ. As the Prophet ﷺ said, الْعَهْدُ الَّذِي بَيْنَنَا وَبَيْنَهُمْ الصَّلَاةِ فَمَنْ تَرَكَهَا فَقَدْ كَفَرَ. He said the difference between the Muslim and the non-Muslim is the prayer. And so the one who leaves it, he's treading a path that leads to disbelief. He's treading a path which is dangerous. And you will not find a person from within our community that is engaging in problematic actions, except that you will find they do not pray regularly or they are not praying properly. That's 100% truth. The salah cannot be underestimated. The salah is our pillar. It's what connects us to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala 5 times a day. And amana is what gives us strength in society. If we were to follow the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in being upright and responsible and truthful and trustworthy, our society today would be completely different. And I will conclude with reminding all of us of an incident regarding the Prophet ﷺ. When he was driven out of Mecca by Quraysh, he was driven out of his homeland and his heart was broken at having to leave. Driven out by those who could be considered his family, his kin. He was slandered. Some of his companions were killed, murdered, martyred. But yet the Prophet ﷺ left Ali radiallahu anhu behind in Mecca. One of the reasons so that the Prophet ﷺ could return to the people of Quraysh that which they had left with him in amana. That which had been entrusted to him of property, the Prophet ﷺ stayed behind so that he could return that property. He left Ali behind, so that Ali could return that property to those whom entrusted the Prophet ﷺ with it. Fulfillment of amana, even with a person perceived to be an enemy. And yet, unfortunately today, amongst ourselves, we are not trustworthy with each other. We take money from each other and we don't pay it back. and so on and so forth. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rectify us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the ability to be people of amana and people of salah. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد وارض اللهم عن أبي بكر وعن عمر وعن عثمان وعن علي وعن سائر الصحابة أجمعين. اللهم تب علينا واعف عنا. اللهم اجعلنا من المقيمين الصلاة يا رب العالمين. اللهم اجعلنا من مقيمين الصلاة وذريتنا. اللهم تب علينا وتقبل منا وأقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Stow, اعتدلوا, straighten the lines, switch off your mobile phones. Allahu Akbar. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. الله ولي الذين آمنوا يخرجهم من الظلمات إلى النور والذين كفروا أولياؤهم الطاغوت يخرجونهم من النور إلى الظلمات أولئك أصحاب النار هم فيها خالدون. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اصبروا وصابروا ورابطوا واتقوا الله لعلكم تفلحون. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Assalamu alaikum, brother. We are collecting for the flood victims in Bangladesh. So can you pay generously, please? Flood victims in Bangladesh. It's a hugely flood in Bangladesh. Thank you. Jazakumullah khair.